sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu v'mitzvotah v'tzivanu la'asak b'nderei Torah. Please, Yehovah, make the Torah's words sweet in my mouth, in the mouth of all your people, the house of Israel. May we, your children, all of Israel, know your name in the name of your Messiah, Yeshua. And may we study your Torah simply because it is good. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who gave us the Torah of truth. Are we ready? We who live in the shelter of Elyon, spend our nights in the shadow of Shaddai, who say to Adonai, our refuge, our fortress, our God in whom we trust. He will rescue us from the trap of the hunter, from the plague of calamities. He will cover us with his pinions, and under his wings we will find refuge. His truth is a shield and protection. We will not fear the terrors of night, or the arrows that fly by day, or the plague that roams in the dark, or the scourge that wreaks havoc at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it won't come near us. Only keep our eyes open, and we will see how the wicked are punished. For we have made Adonai the Most High, who is our refuge, our dwelling place. No disaster will happen to us, no calamity will come near our tent, for he will order his angels to care for us and guard us wherever we go. They will carry us in their hands so that we won't trip on a stone, and we will tread down lions and snakes, young lions and serpents we will trample underfoot. Because he loves me, I will rescue him. Because he knows my name, I will protect him. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him when he's in trouble. I will extricate him and bring him honor. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. Amen. You may be seated in the presence of Yehovah. Let's open up our Bibles to Job chapter 27, verses 1 through 23. We are in lesson 25. This is the continuation from Job's response to Bildad, and it's going to start to change after this chapter because chapter 28 is different, and then we begin to have Job's final couple chapters speech before Elihu starts to speak, and then before Yehovah comes on the scene. So as Job continues with his speech, he restates the certainty of his rightness in the form of an oath. Then he wishes an ugly fate on his enemies, which a lot of times we also, if we're not careful, will do, namely the fate of the wicked, which he then describes in detail. So let's look at Job chapter 27. 1 through 6. I won't say what I sometimes say, and Gail says, please don't say so. But let's look at it. Job continued his speech. I swear by the living God, who is denying me justice, and my Shaddai, who deals with me so bitterly, that as long my life remains in me, and God's breath is in my nostrils, my lips will not speak unrighteousness, or my tongue utter deceit. Far be it from me to say you are right. I will keep my integrity till the day I die. I hold to my righteousness. I won't let it go. My heart will not shame me as long as I live. So when we look at verses 1 through 4, we see this kind of this emphasis and passion in these two verses that kind of builds to the point where it begins in verse 4 as it continues on, that this emphasis and passion about him being right and him being righteous, and that he's not like the wicked. So what makes this so ironic and biting is that he is actually kind of invoking the God whom he is charging. And this is how deeply confident he is in his position. Have you ever been confident in your position that you are sure, you know that you know that you know? And we got 27 chapters in, and we can see with Job, he knows that he knows that he knows that he's what? Righteous. And he knows that he knows that he knows that his friends are wrong. But what he doesn't know is, why is he going through this? Because this should be what the wicked are going through. And we know in the beginning, there's not always a reason, but there is a cause. So this is how deeply confident he is in this position that he has, and that is the depth of his personal integrity. he will not give up his integrity. Remember, these friends just want him to admit it, to repent, and then he'll be okay. But he can't admit to something he knows he has not done. You know, I can only look sometimes, you know, when you've been caught and arrested, and then, you know, there's a lot of people in jail that are supposed to be there, and a lot of people that are in jail that are not supposed to be there. For the simple reason they are pressured and admitting to something they did not do for a lesser sentence, because they are kind of pressured and bullied to say, well, we got you, we believe it, and if you say that you're not guilty and go to trial, you'll get this, but if you say you're guilty, we'll lessen it. And so they kind of just yield to that because they're looking at the consequences. But here is Job, who has lost everything, lost his children, sitting in ooze and pus, and still will not give up his personal integrity to get out of a situation that is horrifying. Most of us will get out of a situation that's horrifying for us. We'll say whatever we need to say. So what he is trying to get them to know, that he's been trying to say for 27 chapters, he will say it up until the 30-some chapters before he's interrupted by the forerunner and Yehovah. He cannot deny what he knows to be true, even though he must testify against Yehovah. If they say that Yehovah only does this to the wicked, and he is righteous, and this is being done to him, then he cannot give in to what they are saying, or even if it looks like it would be true, because he would be denying who he is, and to deny who he is would not be right for him. He cannot do that in his integrity, even if it means questioning what is happening to him and pointing the finger maybe at God, who is not necessarily truthful when it comes to protection for the righteous and destruction for the wicked. Again, to stand on that personal integrity and to kind of just tell a God that's pretty strong integrity, right? So deeper than the God who has embittered his soul is the God who continues to hold him in life, who continues, in fact, to empower him as he uses his breath to voice his complaints and his assertions of innocence. So even though this is a God that has somewhat embittered him, it's still the same God that gives him life. And we can relate to that because sometimes we're hurt, sometimes we're not quite sure what we're going through, sometimes we're more careful of speaking than what Job is speaking, but we think what Job thinks, but at the same time we know he's loving even though it looks like we're being destroyed. We know that he cares for us even though it looks like he doesn't care. We know that he's our healer even though it looks like we're not being healed, right? So Job served Yehovah out of love. A man does not swear by the life of the king unless he loves the king. So he serves out of love. So what he's going through, what he's saying, is not a question of whether he loves God. He does love God. He just doesn't understand, and he wants to understand, which is why he wants his day in court. So verses 5 and 6 again then says, "Far be it from me to say you are right. I will keep my integrity till the day I die. I hold to my righteousness. I won't let it go. My heart will not shame me as long as I live." So if he said, "You're right, let me repent," then what he's doing is he's letting go of his righteousness. And then he would be shamed. So more important than his agony, more important than his loss, is that he still believes that God knows that he's righteous, and he cannot yield that personal integrity to give a view to other people that he is unrighteous. So in many ways, these two verses tell us everything we need to know about the character of Job. Remember, he's patient, but yet he's impatient. He's submissive, but yet he is defiant. He is words of wisdom, and then craziness comes out of his mouth, right? He's exalting God, "For I know my Redeemer liveth," and then he's like, "Where is he?" You know, what's going on with me? I trust him, I don't trust him, he's with me, he's not with me. He protects me, and now he's harming me. And so far be it from him to ever deny what he knows to be true and right, which means justifying his friends. He will not justify his friends by yielding to what he knows to be true, even though they have laid out with their theological standards and maxims and, and belief systems from also the elders that this must be so. So he will not justify his friends by yielding. As long as he has breath. Say what you got to say. Believe what you got to believe. Whether you're my family, whether you're my friends, whether you're my wife, whether you're the stranger, believe it. I'll go to death knowing that you believe that, but I'll go to death knowing what I know to be true. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you believe. It only matters what God believes and what he knows to be true. So just as his integrity did not allow him to speak evil of Jehovah, because remember, though he spoke some things, he never really spoke evil, like in chapter 1. Since he knew that Jehovah would be good and just, it does not allow him, however, to compromise his convictions and agree with his friends, since he knows the truth about himself. He's not guilty, right? He's not guilty. I said he's not guilty. They are not right, and no one can change his mind. I am impressed by his integrity. I am sure that most of us could not be like him that says, I am righteous and blameless. Most of us would be like, I know, I deserve everything I'm getting, right? Because we're not as honest sometimes with ourselves. So here's the thing about him being honest about his righteousness. Then he must have been honest about his unrighteousness, right? And was quick to repent. If he's that full of integrity, then he's full of integrity on both ways, right? He's not, blinded by this and then has eyesight about this and can see. He is as a man of integrity. His backbone is made of steel, despite Jehovah and his associates being against him. Now remember, we know that Jehovah is not against him, but in the view of where Job is, Jehovah is against him. We know that God's not against us, but sometimes in the view that we take and the perspective that we have, it looks like God's against us, right? Come on, I've been through some things. You've been through some things that, you're flipping a book and you're trying to get all those positive faith scriptures. And sometimes those positive faith scriptures are not lining up right now with your life. Right? Greater is he that is in me than he's in the world. Where's that sometimes? When it looks like the world is overtaking you. Correct? By his stripes I am healed. Where's that sometimes? So it is because he will not lie that he cannot agree with his friends. Oh, if we could be that way. Even in the opposite way, if we would just want to say, we're not going through what Job is going through, but if our friends come and say something that's against the word of God, well, I wish that we could just stand and not agree with them. But sometimes we will agree with them by not disagreeing with them. Our silence reveals or gets them to think that we agree with them, right? So we are actually not standing in our integrity. We should be able, in a crowd of people, when they say this thing or whatever it is that's against the word of God, no matter what it would cost us, we should be able to say, if they turn to you and say, what do you think? We should not hem and haul around. We shouldn't come at, soft, well, I think that it depends. Say the truth. We need to live in a day and age where the truth is just said. Certainly in compassion and love, but in truth, right? So he's not being cantankerous. He can't agree because that would mean that he must deny what he knows to be true about himself and then also deny what he knows to be true about Jehovah. Even though this time he's completely confused. So Job continues to kind of hold firmly to this rightness or this righteousness and not let go. He is a pit bull, bulldog, holding on to a truth. Not just holding on because he broke a nail, not holding on because he had a discussion with his wife and called her a mean name. He's holding on through everything. He has lost things that you've never lost. He has things have been demolished in his life, physically, mentally, socially, financially, and yet he will not yield that integrity. He will not let go. Because in some way, if you let it go, then you let go of the truth of God. And he can't let that go, even though he's confused about what's going on. So let's look then at Job's 27, 7 through 10. So Job continues to hold firmly to his righteousness, his rightness. And so for all of his days, his heart will never reproach him, since he conducted himself without guile or duplicity. This man will not be moved. I shall not be moved. Y'all know that song? I shall not be moved. I'm like a what? Tree planted by the waters. I shall. Why? Because there's a root in him. And he's not shallow. And whatever that storm brings to him, he's able to stand in that integrity because he knows his root is strong. We know his root is strong because what he went through, most of us would have given up. Most of us would have said more than what he's saying. Most of us would have just said, okay, Father, whatever I've done, forgive me. So in verse 7, he says, may my enemy meet the doom of the wicked, may foe the fate of the unrighteous. So he despises his enemy, and he is asking them, to have this hardship placed on them and suffer the same fate as the wicked would do. But who is Job speaking about when he's talking about may my enemy? Who is his enemy? Well, when we look at that and we study that out, because again, if you study it out, we take it at face value, but if we need to study it out, this rhetorical speech, this form of speech, actually could be said, may I suffer the fate of the wicked. Let's just get this over with. May I just suffer the fate of the wicked. May my enemy suffer the fate of the wicked. We have to understand that this as the continuation of his protest of righteousness in the previous verses. I am righteous. This shouldn't be happening to me, but it's happening to me, so then may I just suffer what the righteous are suffering. He has suffered as if he was wicked, so now he calls for this kind of reversal of this injustice. If I, as a righteous man, experiencing this, and you, as a wicked man, are experiencing blessing, let's reverse this thing. Right? Let's reverse this thing. Let him suffer, not me. And again, many times in our lives, when we look at our own selves and we see what we're going through, then we look at other people's lives, we kind of judge them, we kind of ask for a reversal. We don't actually say it, because that would not be nice. But we actually, in our brain, we're saying, if I'm doing this and I'm going, then they should go through, they need to go through what I'm going through. Verses 8 through 10 says, for what hope does the godless have from his gain when God takes away his life? Will God hear his cry when trouble comes upon him? Will he take delight in Shaddai and always call on God, is the question. Now remember, earlier Job bemoans his lack of hope. And remember, he's hopeful sometimes, and then he's hopeless sometimes. And here he asks what hope the godless have. When Jehovah cuts them off, do they have any hope? No. When he takes away their lives, what then? Because we know what happens when the lives are gone, right? What confidence do they have? What legacy do they leave? Remember, we're supposed to be able to train up a child in the way he should go, when these older will not depart. So there is a legacy that needs to be handed down. This body, this house, this kahila, what you're hearing, you should be handing it down. It's a legacy, that word being passed down. But what he's saying is the wicked, what do they have? They're not passing anything down but wickedness. I am teaching you, verse 11, how God uses his power, not hiding what Shaddai is doing. Look, you all can see for yourselves. So why are you talking such empty nonsense? This is God's reward for the wicked man, the heritage oppressors receive from Shaddai. If his sons become many, they go to the sword, and his children never have enough to eat. Those of his who remain are buried by plague, and their widows do not weep. So in verse 11, I am teaching you how God uses his power, not hiding what Shaddai is doing. Job begins to address his friends very directly, and he's returning to his normal pattern of speaking to them in the plural. Instead of just saying Bildad or so far or you, he's speaking to them again as a group. And what he's been saying is basically, you've been trying to lecture me all this time. We're 20 chapters in. You've been lecturing me for a long time. But now I'm going to teach you about Jehovah's power, not hiding anything that is with Shaddai. I'm going to try. Well, he's been trying to teach them, and they're not listening. But he also knows their well went dry, right? Because Eliphaz is finished. Bildad could only speak 6 verses, and so far was just, I have nothing else to say. So he's now going to teach them, show them this power of God. Or another way we can say it, not hiding what Shaddai is doing or what the Almighty has planned. Or another way, another translation, the ways of the Almighty. Another translation, what is on Almighty's mind. Another translation, not hiding what Shaddai is doing. It's interesting. I'm going to teach you how God uses his power, not hiding what Shaddai is doing, when he doesn't know what Shaddai is doing. I'm going to teach you what the Almighty has planned, but I don't know what he has planned. I'm going to teach you the ways of the Almighty, but I don't know what they are right now because I'm totally confused. I'm going to tell you what's on Almighty's mind. All he knows is this. He might not get it, but he knows what he does get is they're wrong. He does get that. I might not be able to explain why I'm going through this, but I know what you're saying does not make sense. So you don't know the plan of God. You don't know what God is doing. So Job is actually telling them, listen, I tell you who he is, how he acts, specifically with regards to the wicked. I'm going to share with you, this is how the wicked are. Now, what I'm going through looks like I'm wicked, looks like how God deals with wicked people, but it can't be because I am not wicked. So it might look like a duck. It might act like a duck. But I got to tell you something. It's not a duck right now. And I don't know, and I can't explain it. And if I can get God's attention, and I can get a court hearing, my vindicator will help me prove that I am righteous. But remember, the 3 guys, and what's confusing Job is that they think God's the orchestrator of this. And we've already understood, according to chapter 1 and 2, that God is not the orchestrator. God has stepped back and allowed it, but he has not put anything on Job. So it's not a godly, righteous act coming against wickedness, right? It's wickedness coming against righteousness. There's a difference. There's a difference when you've been disciplined because you've done something wrong, or you've been disciplined and you haven't done anything wrong. There's a difference. So Job is telling, listen, I'll tell you who he is and how he acts, specifically with regard to the wicked, because hopefully sooner or later you'll realize that you'll come to the conclusion that you will understand that before this happened, you thought also I was righteous. You thought also I was blameless. You had enough honor given to me that you would come and I would counsel you. Other people would come, so you know who I am, and I don't know why you forgot who I am. And then you're going to come again and attack me. And remember, that they would have been better off just to come and say, I don't know why you're going through what you're going through, but I'm here for you. Can I get you some water? Can I get you something? Can I wipe the maggots off of you? Can I go get something to help with the pus that's coming? What can I do for you? I know that wife, she shouldn't have said that to you. I know you lost everything. Let's just sit here and pray with you and ask God to help you and reveal. But no. They needed to share with them exactly what was happening with him so that he could have some insight. So verse 12, look, you all can see yourselves, so why are you talking such empty nonsense? You can see yourself. You know who you are. right? He says, all of you know this perfectly well. You're said it enough already. So why do you keep going on with your meaningless talk? You know, one cycle of speeches would have been enough. You said what you had to say, even though it was wrong what you said, but you will not let it go. We had to do 2 cycles. And then finally, you losing steam, but we had 3 cycles. And actually, you're making me tired because I have to do some rebuttal. And I really need to save my strength because I haven't eaten. I haven't drank anything. I'm just, depleted and dehydrated. I'm on my deathbed, and you still want to just ride this thing. So he says, your words, which I'll repeat, are worthless. The way of wisdom is priceless. So then in verses 13 and 15 through 15, what does he do? He just repeats what they said. This is God's reward for the wicked man, the heritage oppressors receive from Shaddai. If his sons become many, they might go to the sword, and his children never have enough to eat. Those of his who remain are buried by plague, and their widows do not weep. Do you all remember that they all said that somewhere along the line? So he's just repeating what they said. No big gig, just repeating. This is what you said, so let me remind you what you said, because you need to be reminded how wrong you are. Verses 16 through 19. Even if he piles up silver like a dust, stores away clothing in mounds like clay, he may collect it, but the just will wear it, and the upright divide up the silver. He builds his house, weak as a spider's web, as flimsy as a watchman's shack. He may lie down rich, but his wealth yields nothing. When he opens his eyes, it isn't there. You can't take anything that you have here where you're going. You might have laid down looking at your car and your house and your bank account, but if you die, when you wake up, you ain't seeing nothing. Hopefully you're seeing something that's better than what you left. And not like the rich man that said, can you give me a little water? And can you go tell my brothers? So in verses 16 through 19, what he says is, as the wicked will gather up this massive amounts of money and clothing, which we see in today's world, right? But whatever they pile up will end up in the hands of the righteous. Now, I don't want you to wait in line to someone who's wicked. It's just kind of one of those things. It doesn't necessarily mean literally that you'll hang around some unrighteous rich people and they're going to give it to you. I mean, you could try if you want to. It goes with Proverbs 13:22 and also Proverbs 28:8 that says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren, but the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the righteous. Proverbs 28:8 says, he who increases his wealth by changing exorbitant interest amasses it for someone who will bestow it on the poor. Which means God's in control, and when you leave whatever you leave, it's going to go wherever it's going to go. But as godly people, you leave it as a legacy and you pass it down. The house he builds, the house of that wicked who's building this house, will have the stability and longevity of a moth. Whatever he has, when he lies down rich, never to awaken, it's not going to be there. So Job is relating that this is what we need to understand. I have a legacy. I'm in a relationship with God. This is why this doesn't make sense, because I'm going to pass it down. It doesn't make sense why my children are going, right? Because I'm supposed to pass it down, train up a child in the way he should go. But again, Job's in the middle of his storm, not the end of the storm. We happen to know what happens at the end. God's a restoring God, right? Now, one of the most important things about the book of Job is that if we understand that God, no matter who you are, if you're righteous, and you can go through this storm, but no matter what the storm is, when you get out to the other side, God's purpose and will be done. If we don't get anything from Job, it should give you hope in the middle of a storm, that this storm is going to pass. It doesn't always pass nicely, because sometimes when you think the storm is almost over, it gets a little rougher. right? You think the storm is over, but you're in the eye. Wait till the eye passes. There's a lot of destruction before, a lot of destruction after. I think the eye of a storm just gives you a moment to breathe. You better breathe a lot of oxygen in because you're going to need it when that eye passes. So when we look at verses 20 through 23, terrors overtake him like a flood. At night, a whirlwind steals him away. The east wind carries him off, and he's gone, sweeps him far from his place. Yes, it hurls itself at him, sparing nothing. He does all he can to flee its power. People clap their hands at him in derision and hiss him out of his home. So he's still talking about the wicked. The wicked man is overtaken with a flood of terrors. Brutal weather batters him mercilessly while he desperately tries to flee. It doesn't happen. He attempts to get out of the situation, all utterly futile, to the point that the storms mock him, slap him, and hiss at him. And I'm sure maybe you've been in a storm that is quite windy, and you try to walk against it, and it just keeps on pushing you back, right? That rain just beats on you. Seems like you're not making any progress. You're not able to go anywhere. And this is what Job is talking about. So he concludes, this is what you say about the wicked. This is what you say about the wicked. I know all about it. You're not telling me anything I don't know. It is overblown and exaggerated, yet it's just about all you have to say. You've taken a concept and you blew it up, and that's really all you got to say. Here's what you said. You could have said it in a paragraph. You keep saying it over and over again in a different way. You use different imagery. Then you pass it on to the other friend, and they use the same thing, said the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. You know, really, if we were just a, fly by night, didn't want to study this out, we could say, okay, chapter 4 through 26, they said he was wicked. He said he was not. We could have saved 27 weeks, right? This is what Job is saying. Why do you keep on doing this? We could have had a short moment. You're saying all this as somehow this applied to me, or there's a lesson I was to learn from it. And again, he's going to learn a lesson, but at this time, it's not the lesson they think he needs to learn, because what is the lesson they think he needs to learn? Repent, you wretched, horrible person who faked it being righteous. You took your money and you didn't give it to orphans. You didn't help children. You did all this. God is after you now, sucker. And all you got to do is repent. But he's not backing down, because he knows that he knows that he knows. Job 28, 1 through 28. Don't get nervous. We're not going there tonight. But chapter 28 is a break. And in fact, in this break, some people have removed Job 28 from the book. They say maybe it's from a different author, maybe it's from a different place. But the majority keep it in there, and the majority says it still belongs to him. But it's a break. It's a break in the conversation of how the conversations went. It's actually a subtitle called The Hymn to Wisdom. It is an unexpected jewel. It's a respite from the emotional storm. It's a hymn to wisdom. Now, maybe he's having a moment. Don't know why, what's going on. But maybe he just needs a moment away from the back and forth and back and forth. And we know when we get to 29, he picks up, because it says Job continues. So now he continues to speak. But there's a moment. I think it's kind of like has anyone just, been in doing something, going through something, and then all of a sudden you just take a rest from all that activity in your brain, you do something else? In your brain, listen, I can't think about it no more. So you go do something, and it's a kind of release for you. Maybe you go listen to praise music. Maybe you go do something else or watch me. And then when it's all done, the movie, you turn it off, or the praise music is done, you go right back to what you were thinking. But you just need a moment. You need to get out of your head, right? So chapter 28 is kind of like he just kind of removes himself from that which is going on with all this hoopla with the friends. And now he has this unexpected joy where he has this respite from this emotional storm. We find that chapter 28 describes this elusive nature of true wisdom found ultimately and only in the fear of Yehovah. So it's a very powerful chapter. I encourage you to read it before we come back next week. It is an interlude that anticipates one of the conclusions of the book. It helps us as a reader to keep our bearings and then kind of gently points us toward the climax of the book. Again, we've been in situations where sometimes you just need to take a break. Maybe if you had an argument with your spouse or children, sometimes you just, okay, we need to take a break. It's too much. I can't think anymore. This lost hair and brain cells. I just need a break. We'll come back. Oh, we're not done yet. It's not finished yet. But I need to go out in the field and count bugs. Do something. Sing a song. Take a ride. That means they're taking a ride. I need to take a ride. You know what that means? I need to rest for a moment. I'm on overload. And we hope that whoever we're with lets us have that moment of overload, because if they keep on riding it, it can have a breaking point. Right? So when you look at chapter 28, and I was debating whether just to like read it and then be done with it because it is a book about wisdom, or tear it a little bit apart. So I might just tear it a little bit apart because it's grab it in sections. And when I was reading it and looking over it, I think it's important that we look at it a little bit because it starts with the image of a miner and mining for silver and gold. And so we know that the Word of God talks about silver and gold and the potter and the clay and finding wisdom and finding this. So we're going to look at it and we're going to tear it apart a little bit, maybe not a lot, but we're going to tear it apart a little bit because it has great imagery where we can find that we really need to understand that if this is full of true wisdom and knowledge, even the whole Word of God, that it's worth digging for. Right? It's worth putting some effort to get it. We live in a day and age where everything is so easy for us that we still want it to be easy for us. And I'm thankful that we live in a day and age where it's easy to have information and gather things that you can never gather before. Now you just Google, where before you had to go to the library and do what the Dewey Decimal System and find out what the number was and where that's located and 901 45 716. You know what I'm saying? Find a book. Take the book home, then forget it, and then have to pay fines and bring the book back. You end up buying the book. You could have just bought it at a store. But now you don't have to leave any place, right? You just open up your computer, push a little button, type in anything. Glory to God. Your word searches. Remember those word searches in the Bible? You had to go and see. You had to look up. Now you just say, how many times is love mentioned in the Bible? Boom. Someone else did all the work for you. It's wonderful. But there's still a lot of treasures, still a lot of silver, still a lot of gold that needs to be mined and brought out. So chapter 28 is about wisdom and true wisdom and the nature of wisdom. So he's taking a little break, and we'll take a little break with him. And then in 29, he continues with expounding on some things that God has to address him. All right, any questions? See, Gail, I didn't say it was going to be a short night because I was afraid. Hallelujah. Let's stand before Yehovah. See, y'all were blessed. Hallelujah. we'll just sing a song and do our shout, and then we'll turn off the the camera, and I'll tell you just a couple things.
I've got a reason to shout.
Hey! I was in darkness and God brought me out.
I'm here to testify, tell you about my wonderful reason. I've got a reason to shout. Yeah, I was in darkness and y'all brought me. I'm here to testify. I'm here to testify. I'm here to testify. Tell you about my wonderful reason to shout.
1, 2, 3. Praise God. Enjoy the rest of your week. See the men on tomorrow, 6 for prayer, and the rest of you on Sabbath. Hallelujah.